Krishna Krishna Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare 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 Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama Rama Hare 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 Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare 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 Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare Hare. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya.
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 Narayan Namaskritya
Naram Chaiva Narottamam Devam Saraswatim Vyasam Tato Jayam Udiraye. Before reciting the Srimad Bhagavatam, which is the very means of conquest, one should offer respectful obeisances to the personality of God and Narayana. Until Narayana is issued the supreme wisdom being, until Mother Saraswati, the goddess of learning, and until Srila Vyasdev, the author. Nasyapraeshu bhadreshu nityam bhagavata sevaya bhagavate uttama shloke bhaktir bhavati naishthiki. By regular attendance to the classes of Bhagavatam and by rendering of service to the pure devotee, all that is troublesome to the heart is almost completely destroyed, and loving service unto the personality of Godhead, who is praised through transcendental songs, is established as an irrevocable fact. Om Ajnana-Timirandasya Jnananjana-Shalakaya Chakshurunmilitam Yena Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha. I was born in the darkness of ignorance, and my spiritual master opened my eyes to the torchlight of knowledge. I offer my respectful obeisances
to him. So today we are reading from Srimad Bhagavatam, Canto 9, Chapter 11, verses 25, the one that we'll recite. Do we have that open? Yes. We'll go with the recitation of the verse and then we can start talking. Okay. Verse 25. Shri Bhadranayan Uvacha Atha Dishat Deva Vijaya Bratrim Stri Bhuvaneshwara Atmanam Darshayan Swam Purim Aksata Sango.
Shri Bhadrayani Uvacha
Shri Bhadrayani Uvacha
अष्टादश दिग्विजय
अष्टादश दिग्विजय
रात्रिं स्त्री भुवनेश्वरः
भ्रातृं स्त्री भुवनेश्वरः
आत्मानं दर्शयन् स्वानाम्
आत्मानं दर्शयन् स्वानाम्
पुरीं ऐक्षत शानुग
पुरीम् अक्षतं सानुगा. Next.
श्रीभद्राणि उवाच
श्रीभद्राणि उवाच
काशीदास दिग्विजय
अथादिशा दिग्विजय
भातृं स्त्री भुवनेश्वरः
रात्रिं श्रीभुवनेश्वरः.
दर्शयान् स्वानाम्
आत्मानं दर्शयन् स्वानाम्
पुरीं अक्षत सन्गुणाम्
पुरीम् अक्षत सानुगा.
श्रीभद्रयानि उवाच
श्रीभद्राणि उवाच
अथादिशा दिग्विजय
अथादिशा दिग्विजय. What's left? You go.
भ्रातृं स्त्री भुवनेश्वरः
भ्रातृं श्रीभुवनेश्वरः
आत्मानां दर्शयान् स्वान्याम्
आत्मानं दर्शयन् स्वानाम्. Who's left?
पुरीं अक्षत सानुगा
पुरीम् अक्षत सानुगा. Who's left?
Shribhadra Badarayani Vacha
श्रीभद्राणि उवाच
Akadisha Digvijay
अथादिशा दिग्विजय
भ्रातृं स्त्री भुवनेश्वरः
भ्रातृं श्रीभुवनेश्वरः. You done?
आत्मनां दर्शयन् स्वानाम्
आत्मानं दर्शयन् स्वानाम्
पुरीं मैक्षिता सनुगा
पुरीम् अक्षत सानुगा. Shri Badarayana Vacha. Shri Sukadev Goswami said, Atha, hereafter, when the Lord accepts the throne on the request of Bharata, Adisat ordered Digvijay to conquer all the world. Bratrin, his younger brother, Tribhuvan Ishvara, the Lord of the universe, Atmanam, personality, himself, Darshanam, giving audience, Swanam, to the family members and the citizens, Purim, the city, Aiksata, supervised, Swa-anuga, with other associates. Translation and purport by Srila Prabhupada. Srila Prabhupada ki Sukadev Goswami replied, after accepting the throne of the government by the fervent request of his younger brother Bharata, Lord Ramachandra ordered his younger brothers to go out and conquer the entire world. While he personally remained in the capital to give audience to all the citizens and residents of the palace and supervise the governmental affairs with his other associates. The Supreme Personality of Godhead does not allow any of his devotees or assistants to be engaged in sense gratification. The younger brothers of Lord Ramachandra were at home enjoying the personal presence of the Supreme Personality of Godhead. But the Lord ordered them to go out and achieve victory all over the world. It was the custom, and is custom in some places is still current, that all other kings would have to accept the supremacy of the emperor. If the king of a small state did not accept the emperor's supremacy, there would be a fight, and the king of the small state would be obliged to accept the emperor as supreme. Otherwise, it would not be possible for the emperor to rule the country. Lord Ramachandra showed his favor to his brothers by ordering them to go out. Many of the Lord's devotees residing in Vrindavan have taken the vow not to leave Vrindavan to preach Krishna consciousness. But the Lord says that Krishna consciousness should be spread all over the world, in every village and in every town. This is the open order of Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. Prithvi te acha yatha nagaradi grama sarvatra prachara haibe mora nama. A pure devotee therefore must execute the order of the Lord and must not gratify his sense by remaining stagnant in one place, falsely proud, thinking that because he does not leave Vrindavan but chant in a secluded place, he has become a great devotee. A devotee must carry out the order of the Supreme Personality of Godhead. Chaitanya Mahaprabhu said, Jare dekha tare kaho Krishna Upadesh. Chaitanya Charitamrita Madhya 7:128. Every devotee therefore must spread Krishna consciousness by preaching, asking whomever he meets to accept the order of the Supreme Personality of Godhead. The Lord says, Sarvadharma parityaja mama ekashana daja. Bhagavad Gita 1866. Abandon all varieties of religion and just surrender unto me. This is the order of the Lord who speaks as the Supreme Emperor. Everyone should be induced to accept his order, for this is victory, Digvijaya, and it is the duty of the soldier, the devotee, to impress upon everyone this philosophy of life. Of course, those who are Kanishta Adhikaris do not preach, but the Lord shows mercy to them also, as he did by staying personally in Ayodhya to give audience to the people in general. One should not mistakenly think that the Lord asked his younger brothers to leave Ayodhya because he especially favored the citizens. The Lord is merciful to everyone, and he knows how to show his favor to each individual person according to his capacity. One who abides by the orders of the Lord is a pure devotee. We're going to do very quick is we'll go to the index of the chapter and read a few of the verses before and after, just to get us the context of where we are. We'll start, I think, with verse 23. So 23, it will become important for us to talk about 23. We'll come back to that. But, O King Parikshit, anyone who orally receives the narration concerning the characteristics of Lord Ramachandra's pastimes will ultimately be free from the disease of envy and thus be liberated from the bondage of fruitive actions. Maharaj Parikshit inquired Sukadeva Goswami, how did the Lord conduct himself? And how did he behave in relationship with his brothers who were expansions of his own self? And how did his brother and the inhabitants of Ayodhya treat him? Sukadeva Goswami replied, after accepting the throne of the government by the fervent request of his younger brother Bharata, Lord Ramachandra ordered his younger brothers to go out and conquer the entire world, while he personally remained in the capital to give audience to all the citizens and residents of the palace and supervise the governmental affairs with his other associates. During the reign of Lord Ramachandra, the streets of capital Ayodhya were sprinkled with perfumed water and drops of perfumed liquor thrown about by elephants from their trunks. When the citizens saw the Lord personally supervising the affairs of the city in such opulence, they appreciated this opulence very much. The palaces gates, the assembly houses, the platform for meeting places, the temples, and all such places were decorated with golden water pots and bedecked with various types of flags. When Lord Ramachandra visited, auspicious welcomes gated were constructed with banyan trees and betel nut trees full of flowers and fruits. The gate were decorated with various flags made of colored cloths and tapestries, mirrors, and garlands. When Lord Ramachandra visited, the people approached him with paraphernalia of worship and begged Lord's blessings. O Lord, they said, as you rescued the earth from the bottom of the sea in your incarnation as the boar, may you now maintain it. Thus we beg your blessings. So like that we can continue just to look at the glories of how things were when Lord Ramachandra was himself the king. And the presence of the Lord itself is very auspicious in that sense, right? I'm going back to 23, and that is where we will start our conversation from, because this is important. Over here, if you see, Sukadeva Goswami is telling Maharaj Parikshit that, once you have heard the characteristics of Lord, in this particular context, it's Lord Ramachandra, then, all diseases of envy and will go away, and you will be liberated from the bondage of fruitive activities. And when such a statement is made, then obviously you get inspired. And that is where the question now comes in, where he's now asking, Parikshit Maharaj is now asking, can you please describe these characteristics so that all this happens to me? Those are the glories of listening to the glories of the Lord by going around. So now the question that can come in is, somebody like Parikshit Maharaj, he already knows, even the Bhagavad Gita says that the activities and the birth of the Lord is transcendental. It says, Janma karma chame divyam evam yo veti taktvata takta devam punarjanam naiti mameti sarjana. Once who's understood the activities and the glorious birth or the appearance of the Lord itself will never take birth. So somebody like Parikshit Maharaj who's coming in from a devotee family already knows this. But what we learn from this very important aspect of him listening to this statement and again making an inquiry, despite the fact that this is we are at 9th canto, 8th canto of listening is already gone. That shows us that if we are devoted to Krishna or Vishnu or Lord Ramachandra in any form, then the aspect of hearing is one, very important, and second, you're never satisfied. You want more and more and more. If at certain point of time, if we find ourselves thinking, I've already listened to 2 lectures today, I think I'm done for the day. Or any similar reactions, if it is coming into the mind, that should be our self-introspection and saying, I'm not there yet. Because the glories of the Lord is so amazing and so sweet that listening to them, we can never be satisfied. And that is what we are learning from Parikshit Maharaj from the very beginning of Srimad Bhagavatam and again over here and multiple times that will be repeated. This process of hearing is so glorified. Even if by hearing again and again and again the very same thing, even if we keep doing the same verse over and over and over again, we'll still be rejuvenated because the presentation of that verse from different devotees and their realizations will be unlimited. There's so many acharyas in which we can hear, one verse they kept going on and on and with their lectures. It never ended. And then it's when you have to finish the Bhagavatam, let's go to the next verse, right? That is the amount of nectar that is existing. And this concept of listening, Shravanam, is also been emphasized by, there's a verse, Shravanam Kirtanam Prabhu. So that verse is also very clearly emphasizing that this listening part is the first step. And so everywhere again and again, this part of listening is emphasized. Now there's once in the devotee community itself, there's a nurse who came up and gave this very interesting information. Okay, and I think it's mentioned in the Bhagavatam also somewhere, if I'm not mistaken, that once a person is dying, right? What is happening is one after the other, the senses stop. You stop seeing. Your sense of touch also keeps going on. Your body is slowly shutting down. But what happens the last is the sense of hearing goes away. Because Krishna is so merciful that he's giving you the last opportunity also, even if in that last micro millisecond of you dying also, let me give you the opportunity that you hear about Krishna. So that aspect of hearing is that important for us. But it is important after Shravanam comes Kirtanam. The aspect of hearing is glorified to the extent that we got 1 mouth, we got 2 ears, and we got 2 eyes. So what is said in very commonly is, you're supposed to be doing double the hearing than what you do speaking. So if you're going and talking about anything, you should do the double the hearing about Krishna consciousness. I'm going to extend that even further. We got 2 eyes also. 2 units of reading, 2 units of listening, then 1 unit of speaking. That is the process that has been given to us by the acharyas. Right? If you have not read the scriptures, if you have not heard from authorized sources, you cannot speak. Right? So that 2 unit plus 2 unit, that is what will comprise for us to be capable enough to speak 1 unit. Right? Now, the process of hearing has been glorified multiple times, but we also have to understand the reason behind the process of hearing, the Shravanam also. Without the process of hearing itself, we cannot connect with Krishna. We want, the objective of human form of life is to connect with Krishna. But we cannot connect with Him if we have not heard. If I just randomly start talking to you about, say, for example, my brother, whom you have not even met, whom you have not even heard about, will you be able to kind of perceive what my brother is like? No. So, can you build a relationship with him? No. Can you by any ways please him? No. So, the process of hearing is important because by that we kind of start knowing the person. When we start knowing the person, that is when we start building a relationship. Until when we don't have a relationship, we will not be able to come to the point of a surrender. So it's a linear progression. And we see that even in the material world. The people who are fans of some celebrities will know a lot about them. So without knowing, without hearing about them, knowing is not going to come. Without knowing, you cannot build a relationship. That's an utmost important thing, right? So that is where, we continuously have to go through the process of Shravanam and hearing. Because what happens is once we know, through the process of hearing, once we know the opulence of the Lord, when we know Him, oh, He's the source of everything. Oh, everything belongs to Him. And so on in different ways, different devotees expressing His opulence. It is only through that opulence do we understand how magnanimous He is. Oh, He is there, I am here. And that is when only then can we come to the point of accepting ourselves as being His servant. Otherwise we cannot. Till when we have not accepted the fact that, oh, you are so amazing, you are the master because you are above us, the surrender in terms of being a servant will not come in. So that is why through the process of hearing, we hear about His opulence also. In the same way, while we are hearing about the Lord's activities, we also see how different devotees have surrendered to Him. And how through that process of surrendering, they've actually been able to get something. And by getting something, basically, you get convinced yourself, okay, now I will serve because there's somebody who's been serving and they have been getting something which makes sense. So I should also do the same. Like the reason why we looked at the verses over here was you see how the devotees are approaching Lord Ramachandra. And we will continue hearing all of this. This is like the term Ram Rajya is so famous that in the kingdom of Lord Ramachandra there was no miseries whatsoever. To the extent where devotees also describe that even when it would rain, the rain would be in such a way that the crops would get the water, everything that needs to get water is going to get. But if you are traveling on the road and it's going to be inconvenient for you, if the road gets wet and muddy, it will not wet the roads. That is the amount of control that was there to ensure that even that kind of suffering does not exist. So how is that happening? When Lord Ram is there, then the devotees of Lord Ram is there. And when we are seeing those devotees doing certain things, if we do the same thing, then Lord Ram is here again in the form of His name, in the form of the deities. We can still have Ram Rajya if we want to. So that is what we learn through the process of hearing. Through this process of hearing, we also come to understand about the liking, the disliking of the Lord. When we say that every activity that we are supposed to be doing is for the pleasure of the Lord, how can we do anything for the pleasure of the Lord if then we don't understand what He likes, what He does not like? So again, the process of hearing, both in terms of from the eyes and the ear, is important. Because it is only through these processes that we are now being able to understand how to please the Lord. And finally, through all of these different things, when we are hearing, there are instructions that the Lord is giving through His activities, through the activities of His devotees. Or sometimes, as in Bhagavad Gita, directly instructing also. So those instructions are very important for us because that is what defines what we are supposed to do in a very clear way. Right? So that is why this process of hearing is very, very, very important. And when we hear from Bhagavad Gita, the words when Krishna says, Paritranaya sadhuna vinashkaya cha dushkritam dharma samsthapanarthaya sambhavami yuge yuge. It's like saying millennium after millennium I will come to establish the religious principles, but I'm also doing two things. One is vinashkaya cha dushkritam, that I'm killing all the people with demoniac mentalities, the miscreants, which is very clear, it's understandable. He comes, he kills. Right? But what about this Paritranaya Sadhunam part of it, where he's saying that I save the devotees? How is he saving the devotees? He's saving the devotees by giving all of this to us. His activities, and that is why this question is being asked, and this emphasis on understanding the characteristic and activities of Lord Ramachandra is important, is because through understanding all of this, we are getting all the information that is needed for us to be able to understand what has to be done. And we do that, we get, not only do we get to know what has to be done, we see examples of how it has to be done, we get convincing evidence that if we do it, it's going to work, and all of that aspect. How to take guidance. Every aspect has been given to us to the scriptures, and that listening part, if we are done nicely, so that we get all of this package completely, which is what is going to save us. Right? Now, when we are listening to all of these glories of the Lord, now in this context, we are talking about the glories of Lord Ramachandra. But if the one verse that we read very quickly was, there were a conversation about Lord here, 29. It's saying, you rescued the earth from the bottom of the sea in your incarnation as a board. We're also talking about Lord Vara, right? So in each of these different incarnations that the Lord comes, in each of these different avatars that he comes, he's actually presenting some set of information for us. And through all of this information, we come to know more and more about the Lord. Why does he have to do so many different forms of his? He's one amazing, beautiful Lord who can come in and do things. Actually, even without coming, he can do things. But if he wants to come, he can come in one form. Why does he have to create so much of confusion in the mind of people? One is because we are able to connect differently in different contexts. Right? The Lord gives us variety. And through this variety, he's teaching us in different ways. Right? Like for example, Lord Narsimha, when he comes, he's showing his angry form, the Ugra Narsimha form. Why is he showing that? He's trying to teach from that perspective that if you touch the devotees, I'll be there to protect them. And if you try and harm them in any ways, if you try and trouble them in any ways, I'll come and destroy you. There's a teaching, there's an aspect of Lord Narsimha that is being prominently put forward for us as a teaching. That what is the position of a devotee, what is the Lord's position, and how he comes and protects when it is needed to be. In the same way, what has been talked over is Lord Varaha. He's saying not only from an individual living entity coming and protecting them over all the entire universe and its working and its mechanism, not only does he create, but he also maintains and protects in case of difficulties also. So through Lord Varaha, we come to know that also. Lord Chaitanya, when he comes and shows that I am the original guru, the teacher for everybody of how things are supposed to be done. And I will mercifully, lovingly teach you till when you don't learn it. Right? In the same way, now Lord Ramachandra, when we are reading about his activities, he is called the Maryada Purushottama. He is trying to establish that following of the principles is so important for us. That no matter how difficult the situation is, we will always follow the principles. So in all of these different ways, we are able to now understand different aspects about the Lord himself. But what do we conclude out of it? What is the takeaway? Is the fact that we have to understand that we can try understanding the Lord in all of these different incarnations, keep reading, keep listening. We'll know about him, we'll to be able to build a relationship with him. But the most important understanding and takeaway that we come to know from all of this is that the Lord is inconceivable. I have started understanding the Lord in the form of Lord Ramachandra, but then who? Lord Shiva, total different variety. Right? So when we look at all of this, through all of these different forms, the conclusion that we come is that Lord can have so many different aspects, so many different ways to interact with us, that is actually inconceivable for us. We cannot conceive all the entire spectrum that the Lord has to offer. Right? And that is when that complete surrender of with awe comes in. I said, oh Lord, there is no way I can fully understand you. Please reveal to me. That is where the surrender to the authorities, to the entire parampara system is going to come in. Again, there is a reason why listening to all of those things has been glorified over here. Right? And through these different aspects of the Lord, one takeaway, which is important for us to also understand, is the fact that, we should not get so bottled into our own world so much that we start disrespecting and disregarding others. The word religion, as it's seen in today's world, people have by the scriptures we know that Sanatan Dharma, the love for the God, is the only religion. But it manifests in different ways in what we are calling in religion today. If you call it Christianity, or you call it Islam, or you call it so many different existences that exist. But when we understand the aspect that Lord is inconceivable, and He is presenting Himself differently to different devotees in their capacity to be able to understand. So that He's interacting with them in different unique relationships, just because that is the way it needs to be done for their benefit. So then we are able to respect and create that SUDARSHANam, that universally common same view for everybody that Bhagavad Gita is talking about. Again, that is one more reason why all of these activities and everything is glorified, because through that we understand the inconceivable nature of the Lord, and through that we can understand that no, not just the way I am interacting with the Lord is the only limited way to do it. He's inconceivable. We can interact with Him in so many different ways. Right? So now, when we talk about all of these aspects of Krishna interacting in different ways and seeing all of these different ways, one thing that we understand, and this is where the theme of the verse is also going to come in now, is that Krishna is the best of well-wisher that we have. We might have well-wishers here and there who might be, okay, I'm your well-wisher to ensure your professional well-being. I'm here as a well-wisher to ensure your well-being for a health perspective, and so on and so forth. But an holistically best well-wisher and doing the best for us is Krishna and Krishna only. How do we understand this? Through all of these different leelas and characteristics of His, it is described over there. But one thing, if you see very carefully, when we talk of all of these different people meditating and getting boons, Krishna has never given a boon that leads to the person's destruction himself or the destruction of the society overall. There are so many cases we have heard the person meditated and got certain boons, and now they ended up becoming, overly puffed up and misusing what they've received, and ultimately it led to their own destruction. Krishna has never given such a boon. And that is where the verse and what Srila Prabhupada is pointing out comes, that his mission and objective is that I'm going to engage you in such a way that you get away from sense gratification. And you come to a point of a total surrender. And for that, He can actually, instead of giving a lot and spoiling us, because that's what happens with kids also, He actually takes away if it is needed. His process of taking away is His biggest mercy, because when He takes away, that is when you're like, oh man, what do I do now? I don't have any money. Krishna, please help me. You surrender. That's the mood that Q and Kunti also had. And through all of this, when you don't have much of a resources, then you will not get engaged into sense gratification also. Right? But that is His mercy. We can see that if we come to the point where Krishna wants us to come, then all of a sudden, it's like, when you're going uphill, and when you've reached the peak, it has been a struggle to reach uphill, right, to the summit. And from there, now it's downhill on the other side. So let's take an example. The fruit vendor who came and gave fruits to Krishna, she had a choice, like, I give up all these fruits to Krishna and just take something which is actually of none of the value. But that surrender came in and said, okay, take it, Krishna, take it. It's all yours. That detachment from that material aspect of things was there, and surrender to Krishna also came in over there. And what happened next? Unimaginable riches. Something that they did not even ask for. Sudama is another example. Living in amazing poverty. In all of these poverty cases also, he never asked Krishna for anything. Even when his wife sent him, he still did not ask. He just went, oh, okay, I'll go and see my friend. Right? But then when he came back, again, unimaginable, unlimited riches. Till when you don't reach the summit of full, complete surrender, Krishna is not going to give us, because there is a danger that once we get it, we'll get involved into sense gratification and fall down further and actually do self-destruction. Dhruv Maharaj also in that case, he's like, he had to give up his kingdom, go and stay in the forest, do all of these austerities before he came to the point of fully understanding and surrendering to Krishna. He did not want anything at this moment, and that is when he got everything. So that is the nature of Krishna as a well-wisher. He knows what is best for us, and he does actions in such a way, irrespective of what we want or we think what we want, he knows what is best for us. Right? So even if we are in a very, very, very difficult situation, we have to understand that Krishna is actually being merciful for us. He's actually being our best well-wisher. And in that, when we fully surrender, he's actually trying to help us elevate ourselves spiritually. Material benefits and everything, he brings us to the point that we become indifferent to it. And as soon as we become indifferent to material benefits, when you are fully spiritually surrendered to Krishna and saying, okay, this is good, Krishna, whatever you're doing is good, that is when he all of a sudden gives you everything. that is his characteristics, right? So all Krishna he wants from us as an instruction is that fully surrender to me, and that is what Srila Prabhupada was talking in the purport also, Sarva Dharma Parityaja Mam Eka Sharanadaja. That is the teaching that Srila Prabhupada is, through all of this, is trying to bring us, as a surrender to him completely. Do not get engaged into sense gratification, and through that. Now, how do we do that? That example is again shown over here. Lord Ramachandra is engaging his brothers. Go out. Go out, follow my instructions, go out and conquer the entire world. In this case, conquering the entire world means that they are going and they're wanting everybody to surrender to Lord Ramachandra. Which means they're making everybody Krishna conscious. Which means they're preaching. Right? That is the objective. This is not in the literal sense of going and grabbing land. Even though the emperor is supposed to be in that order of administrative role, also has to come into a point of making other kings surrender and have that position. But in this case, it is a very spiritual activity that Lord Ramachandra is engaging his brothers into. Go out, tell them about me, make them surrender to me. That is how it will be beneficial for everybody. Right? So this, he is telling them for their own benefit. But Lord Ramachandra's brother is his eternal associates. What spiritual benefit do they need? They're already over there. This is actually for instructions to us. What is the instruction? The instruction is go out and preach. Right? Now, one quick point I will come back before I come back to the part of preaching and what Srila Prabhupada has talked in the purport. When we are talking about following instructions, right? When we say go follow instruction, Lord Ramachandra has said this, your guru has said this, your temple president has said this, whatever, right? Your mentor has said something. Is that people come up with an argument and saying, you're blind following, right? You're not using your brain. What are you doing? He's just saying, so I do it. That makes no sense, right? So let's break that as a myth also. Is this actually following the instructions that we have been receiving through the authorities for the spiritual benefit? Is that blind following? Let's take an analogy and understand from that perspective, right? When I'm not well, I went to the doctor wrote a prescription, I went to the pharmacist, picked up the medicines and followed the instruction that the doctor gave me. And I got better. Is that blind following? No. We will say no. Why not? I first identified what is happening to me is not normal, I'm unwell. First identification. Then you identified who is qualified to make me well, or who knows that knowledge. You approach that person. If you are in doubt that is this person actually telling me the right thing or not, you sometimes take a second consult. And that is when you come to the point of saying, no, it rationally makes sense, and then you follow the instruction and see the result of getting well and then say, yeah, I did the right thing. Same is supposed to be followed when following instructions also. First, we identify that we are in the material world suffering, and that suffering has to be resolved. We are not in our natural constitutional position. Then we go to a guru, because they are the ones who can solve it. If we are in doubt, is this guru a bona fide one who is actually giving me the right sense of direction or not, then we have reference points. Guru, Shastra, Sadhu. The three references. All right, second consult also taken. Now I follow the instructions completely and I see the benefit of it happening. So it is not a blind faith. So what is Srila Prabhupada saying as an instruction to us in the purport? And he's always said that multiple times. Yes, the theme is go out and preach. But he's also talking about Kanishta Adhikaris and all of that aspects. So the entire concept of going out and preaching is also based on levels, in a sense. We have to understand where we are, and based on that we operate. Right? So at the very beginning stages, at the very earlier stages when we are that Kanishta Adhikari, don't have much of a knowledge, then also we are supposed to be preaching. Whom are we supposed to preach? Ourselves. So preaching will never stop, right? At the very initial levels, when you are still not fully convinced, then preach yourself. But you have to tell others also. You have to go out. You have to fight war. What are you supposed to be doing? There's not much within me to give out to somebody else. That is why book distributions. Take the books, go out. Srila Prabhupada, please preach to this person. Who am I to be able to preach? That's the surrender mode, and we said, I will go and stand and just try and hand over the books to as many people as I can, and Srila Prabhupada will do the preaching. I am a Kanishta. What do I know? You know, when we have done all of this, then we kind of keep coming to the level that, okay, now we can come to the point where we are talking, giving classes, doing a little bit more elaborate conversation with people to guide them, come to the point of becoming a mentor, mentoring people, following our own mentor to see how that mentorship is supposed to be done, and so on and so forth. And then finally, Srila Prabhupada gave this as an instruction to my Guru Maharaj in a written letter. And he said that to multiple places, multiple times. The ultimate thing is, through all of this process of elevation, we are supposed to be becoming a guru and delivering the whole world, he says. That is the objective. Like, becoming a guru does not necessarily mean in terms of initiating a guru. If that is, you're coming to that particular point, wonderful. Let everybody become an initiating guru. The whole world will be saved for sure. But that becoming a guru also means becoming a Shiksha guru also. Being a mentor, being teaching. But how will we do that when we have not done it ourselves? The process of Krishna consciousness is so amazing that once we start something, we never stop. We only add on top of it. Because the purpose is that my bottle needs to be filled up with Krishna consciousness. So if I remove something, then it's not going to fill up, right? If I'm trying to fill in water into a bottle which has a hole through which things are leaking out, then it will never be full. How do we fill ourselves with Krishna completely? By just topping on top of it. So if at level 1 we started doing preaching ourselves to ourselves, that always has to be done. Even if you become a guru. That process of learning, listening, preaching yourself will never stop. The process of book distribution will never stop. So it's an incremental process, but it is a cumulative incremental process where everything else keeps adding up, and that is how we gradually grow up. So if we at any stage think, oh, I've been here long enough, I think I'm senior enough, this is too low for me to do. So by this, that's never the case. That never should be the case. What should be the case is, once you've been here for a while, you're supposed to be now leading from the front. Leading from the front means, let's do it together. This is how it is done. And then everybody does it with you. That is how you engage. Right? We never stop doing it ourselves. Even Srila Prabhupada, he never stopped doing what he always did. And that's also the process talked about in Nectar of Devotion also. If you started from the state of a sadhana bhakti, where you're following regulative principles, even if you have come to the point of now fully doing bhakti out of love, you still follow the sadhana processes. Just now to teach, to lead. Right? So those are what I think are the important takeaways from these set of verses and what Srila Prabhupada had been saying in the purport. We have 5 minutes. We probably can take questions, comments, realizations, or challenges. Yes,
No challenges here. But I would like to hear you speak more on, you were talking about the analogy of a doctor.
Yeah.
And we go to the guru and we ask for instructions and we follow them because we understand that they're the person that can cure us of our condition, which is being stuck in the material world and suffering.
Yeah.
Sometimes people have doubts about the practice because they still, like for instance, my friends and family who I've tried to preach to over the years, because they still see devotees suffer.
Right.
They see devotees suffering, struggling with problems that they have for years, and so it might not seem to an external person that they're making so much progress.
Right.
So can you speak a little bit more about the nuances of curing our material?
That is fantastic. So when we preach, there is a level of intelligence needed to understand the appetite of the person that we are talking to also, right? So even a doctor, when we go to them, they might look at, oh man, this person is never going to listen to me, right? You tell him, don't do this. Like for example, there's this concept that, again, it's in a different context. I'll give that as an example. Let's say drinking juice is not good for your body because it becomes difficult for digestion. And if you're having nice, good, chilled, cold juice while you're having your meal, you're actually putting down the digestive fire and helps making digesting food even more difficult. Okay. Now, if you're trying to explain this entire philosophy of Ayurveda to somebody who's not wanting to listen, they will say, I don't care. Or whatever. They will come up with counter arguments, challenge, whatever, right? So, at some point, maybe you are able to convince them that saying, okay, at least don't have juice at the time of your meal. Have it 30 minutes, 45 minutes afterwards. So that the digestion of the meal happens first and then you are cooling down your entire stomach. If that is it. So what are you trying to do? You're trying to intelligently negotiate with them in a way that they do something instead of doing nothing. Right? Preaching to the family is the most difficult aspect because they will not listen to you. They are still the little baby. Who are you to teach me? We are the ones who have been showing you how things are supposed to be done, etc., etc., right? So in some way or the other, we are supposed to be engaging. And I can give you, I don't know how many examples where it has worked. Devotees in families and this is my god brother now, my god sister is trying to preach her husband, and from the stage where when I had to drop her home, when we do our temple services and everything, I had to drop her 2 blocks away so that the husband does not see us because he will start throwing things at home. Right? He used to be that kind, totally closed. The only thing that was being done at that time for years and years and years was he was given prasadam. He started mellowing down, started becoming friends with devotees only for the sake of conversations. No, do not preach me. So we never preached him. But we just said, okay, come sit. Oh, we started doing book distribution in front of him, and he would start coming up with suggestions. Oh, wow, such a nice, intelligent idea. You're right. You should actually help us and guide us sometimes. You're polishing his ego a little bit. There's no preaching happening. From there, slowly and steadily, he's now an initiated god brother of mine. Right? It might have taken something of the order of 15 years for this transition to happen, but my Guru Mata never left him alone. Slowly, steadily, that is the process. That is how, what I'm trying to tell you is, depending on the appetite of the person, we need to give them what they're able to take, and let it be on that point. When we try and push it too hard, they might just close down. We don't want that. Right? Does that help, Prabhu?
That wasn't, sorry.
Yeah.
I meant to ask more like, someone else could ask because we're running out of time. That was an excellent answer, but the nature of my question was more like, could you talk more about why devotees still suffer and struggle even though they're taking the medicine?
That's a good question. That's again a good question, right? So, fantastic, Prabhu. Thank you. And sorry, I misunderstood your question. So there are two parts to it, right? The first part of why our devotee is suffering is because the full surrender has not come in yet. That's one reason, right? That the amount of protection you are getting is the amount of surrender you are giving to the defense system itself, right? That's one aspect of how to look at it in a humble position. Also, it is the mercy of Krishna also. He's giving, when we get initiated, Guru takes away most of our karmas, but a little token is left to continuously keep reminding us. If you go back, this is going to get amplified. So in that way, that little token to keep helping us remember you're in the material world, you're still vulnerable to falling down, that mercy is still there. And one more way in which I look at it sometimes is Krishna is so merciful Like when I think of our acharyas, all the amazing gurus that we have in the entire movement, and all these senior devotees, they're fully surrendered. They're fully surrendered. They're the ones actually who are taking away everybody else's karma. So what is happening over there? I think in that case, it's sometimes like what Krishna does. There's little blanket on top for people, like, why did he appear as the son of somebody when there is no birth or death for Krishna himself, right? But it is there because for those who don't want to believe, he's given them a subject matter to argue and say that, okay, just to give you the mercy of you wanting to be able to think in a certain way, I'm giving you this as a subject matter to argue, saying Krishna took birth, what are you talking? I see his birth certificate. Right? In the same ways, when then people don't want to understand and accept the fact that Krishna really, really helps us get over the suffering state of the material world. He might leave a little token by saying, okay, see, you can still argue if you don't want to surrender, if you want to still be convinced in your mind. He mercifully gives argument for that also, saying the devotees are also suffering. Right? He might be doing that. So Krishna has multiple reasons to do things, and based on every individual who's listening and hearing to all of these things, he engages in them in that particular way. It could be our desire to be bewildered and see it that way. I can take one more question, like before we. Yes, Prabhu, go ahead.
I have a comment.
Yes.
I remember one Christian preacher. He says that I'm always preaching, but sometimes I speak.
Interesting. Yes, Prabhu.
Sorry, I just had a
Yeah.
question to add on to this question.
Yes.
Sometimes we are in certain situations and we gain Krishna consciousness for that situation. I've seen that, especially something happens in life, and because people notice that, because you joined Krishna consciousness, this is why it's happening to you.
Yeah.
So how do you not take Krishna consciousness for your situation?
No, so that's where the mood of Kunti Maharani comes in, and the entire reason we talked about all the three examples that we said, right? In your mind, you know that, okay, sure, externally seeing, it looks like I'm in a difficult situation, but that getting into that difficult situation is part of the process of a training. When you join defense forces, for example, right? When you're joining an army or military or something, you go through rigorous trainings. You're literally made to. It's difficult for you to survive through that training, actually, right? Why is that? So that in even the most difficult situations, nothing is going to happen to you. That's part of the training. So even when we see ourselves in a difficult situation, Krishna is actually testing us. Remember that. He's merciful. If you are supposed to be appearing for an exam that is going to define your life completely, say it's an entrance exam for certain college you want to be in, or it's a certification exam for you to be able to start your professional career, something, right? It is going to define your life and death situation for you. Let's say, for example, that is the amount of importance you give to it. What do you do before? Do you just do a little reading here and there and go and sit for the exam, or you do mock exams multiple times to prepare yourself for that big exam? So every difficult situation, see that as a mock exam. Morning we were doing the verse. At the time of death, if you remember Krishna, that's the full exam, that's the final exam. Before that, there are mock exams given. You're driving, all of a sudden somebody's going to jump in front of you, and do you say, something? Or you go, Krishna! Mock exam. What is our consciousness? That is what is going to define what we're going to say at that moment of time. Right? You could not remember Krishna at that time. So how are you going to remember at the time of death? Right? Take that as a mercy. If there's a difficult situation, you don't chant it, then how will you chant at the time of death? It's going to be even worse at that time. Right? Alright, thank you so much. Hare Krishna.